And welcome to another Tuesday Talk. I have here with me one of our lecturers, Mark Sullivan. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm good.
You're good? Awesome. So Mark is one of our lecturers in the English Language Academy. He has taught in both the Intensive English program and the English for Academic Purposes program. And he's even helped teach some of our practicum students who are learning how to teach ESL for our students, which is pretty awesome. So, Mark, why don't you tell us how long you've been in the English Language Academy?
I've been at UWM for almost 2 years, so about a year and a half. So I started in 2019.
Yeah, I think we started around the same time, actually. So, if I remember correctly. But yeah. So, but you have quite the experience in both teaching and in administration, right?
Yeah, I like to think so.
Yeah, can you tell us about that? You actually have been to a lot of places.
Yeah, I've done some work in the U.S. and also abroad, which is partially why I've had so many jobs. Teaching English, it's kind of a job where you want to live abroad. So yeah, before UWM, I taught at University of Colorado in Boulder. Pretty similar program, just a different university. There's also something called the English Language Fellow Program, and this is for, master's level students. So like you could do the program. Anyone could do the program that has a master's related to, I think you can even get it if it's a master's in education. So I went to Morocco. I lived in Casablanca for about a year. And that's pretty cool. It's a good cultural experience.
Yeah, I've never been to Morocco, but I've heard it's beautiful.
Well, it's like California, but it's in Africa, in terms of the weather.
Yeah.
So, and they speak Arabic, or they call it Darija there. It's Moroccan Arabic.
Yeah.
And so before that, what did I do before that? I did some curriculum design in the DC area, just kind of, a little more corporate, private work. So I got to work with the U.S. military there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was interesting. It was good to get that experience, and so I worked on a curriculum design project for actually Navy SEALs.
Wow.
So it's called Naval Special Warfare. So I actually got to meet like real Navy SEALs, which they're very big, strong, but they're really friendly people. So that was kind of a good experience in terms of how you can kind of apply our degrees in applied linguistics to something that's kind of more like for foreign language, is intended to design a program for them to learn like Pashto or Spanish, but it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
How you apply it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also, after I got my graduate degree, I lived in Costa Rica for a year. And I didn't just spend my whole time on the beach. I actually did have a job. So I was training teachers, and kind of similar to CELTA, but a little more short term. So 1 month intensive programs, just pretty much a crash course in how to teach an English class. They actually had to teach classes in the local area, and I would just give them feedback, say what went well, what you could improve.
Yeah. So you've done. Didn't you also grow up in the military?
I did, yeah. So
yeah.
And it's funny, I'm not in the military myself, but I pretty much moved as much as my parents did growing up. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I was actually born in Japan because the U.S. military has a base in Okinawa. which doesn't exist now, but that's kind of interesting. I'm one of seven, but I was the only one born outside the United States. We also lived in Germany.
You have six siblings? Is that what you mean?
I do. I have six siblings.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, I know it's crazy. And I'm in the middle. I'm number four. So you could imagine how crazy that is growing up.
Yeah. Oh wow. So yeah, like that's a lot. Like you've been all over the world. And would you say that like growing up in the military is what led you to want to do ESL, or was it maybe something else?
Partially. I mean, it is pretty funny. I mean, I think my first language experience was in Germany. We did live on a base, but at some point over Christmas, Germans, they really like Christmas. And you can even see it in like Milwaukee and Wisconsin, which has German heritage. Everyone loves Christmas.
Yeah.
So I went to some party there, and somehow I got a book in German. And I was like so fascinated by it, but I couldn't read it. I was like, how come I can't read this? But in terms of like language learning, like German actually has a lot in common with English. I could pick out some, some of those like cognates.
Yeah.
You see the word like kinder, and you're like, oh, that's kind of like a kid. It's children. So partially, I think that's what got me into like wanting to learn a language. But I think it was mostly college. I mean, I lived in the Spanish house. And so when you're in those language houses, you're around people who like to travel, learn languages, who are interested in other cultures. So it wasn't really connected to teaching. I sort of fell into that. It was more just wanting to learn languages and travel. So I think it was probably more college that had the influence on me. But in terms of the moving around, the military probably did have some influence.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of happened for me. When I was an undergrad, I originally wanted to be a French teacher, I thought, and then I was like, no, I don't want to teach people. That sounds horrible. So I just like did French, but then I found like as I got like even after I graduated, I interned with a refugee resettlement agency, and then I started teaching ESL, and I was like, maybe I do want to teach. And then I ended up like, doing grad school and all of that, and now I'm here. And even though I'm not teaching, I still enjoy working with our students, which is great.
Yeah.
So what would you say you enjoy most about having all these different experiences all over the world?
Well, it's like every, I think, experience, it's the people that you get to meet. So even here at UWM, the best part is meeting the students. I mean, the other teachers are great too, but just that constant exposure to different viewpoints, different perspectives that they bring to us is just really cool. I mean, not many people get to experience, I don't know, not just teaching, but just hanging out, meeting students from all over the world, I think is the best part. But living abroad, I mean, it's also the people you meet there, just how friendly they are. I mean, everyone that comes to the US, they say how friendly we are. And I think as Americans, we take it for granted. We don't really see it very often. But I think even when you're living here, people from other countries find ways to say, wow, you guys are really friendly. I'm like, okay. I think it's the same. Like when I go to other countries, I'm just shocked at how friendly they are too. So anyway, it's just strange to be in our field because we're surrounded by media and politics. And I think we all know deep down that it's just not true. Like, people just don't understand, other cultures. They don't understand other perspectives, and I think we shouldn't take that for granted. The fact that we are exposed to that so much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, being in our field is hard sometimes because people who aren't, they don't have
Mhm.
that perspective, and like, yeah, it's really hard for me to, I don't know. Like, one of the things I hate the most is like
Mhm.
when people are like, "Oh, you speak two languages? That's amazing." It's like super exotic, but I'm like everyone else in the world speaks probably at least two languages. We're
Yeah,
just
even people that don't even understand how we teach English, the first question they ask me is, "Well, do you speak Spanish? Do you speak Chinese?" And I'm
yeah.
like, "Well, it's tough." And I
Yeah,
mean, my parents still think I teach Spanish. They don't even know I teach English. They're like, "What?"
that's really funny. Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's interesting. Like, I did I also used to teach French, and I once had a friend ask me, she's like, "Well, do you know every French word?" And I was like, "Do you know every English word?" Like, no, like that's not how it works. Yeah, but
yeah, it's crazy.
it's definitely like interesting to have, and I kind of don't blame people because it's just the way that our system is, like, because English
Hmm.
is such a worldly language, like we don't have a really like need to like know other cultures or languages. So I
Right.
try to, be like, I don't know, understanding. I just think it's funny because like they think I'm so exotic. I'm like, it's not that exotic.
That's funny.
Yeah, but definitely. And it's hard because it's like we have students who are affected by the politics of the US, and it's hard
Hmm.
because it's like, we know it's not your fault that our countries don't like each other. Like, it's okay.
Yeah,
You.
yeah, I know it's tough
Yeah.
to
So,
hear some stuff and, but that's why we're there
yeah,
to
exactly.
help.
With our Iranian students, sometimes it's hard because I imagine they feel very like isolated sometimes, just especially
Right,
everything that's happening. But yeah,
right.
I guess that's why we're more important, even more now than we have been in the past, I think, for our students.
Hmm.
So that's really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So, but all of that's great, right? We love those things, but of
Hmm.
course, like our field and like teaching ESL and just being in this field in general can also be challenging, right? So what do
Hmm.
you find to be the most challenging part of being in this field?
Um, I think, I mean, that's a tough question. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's what we were just talking about, how, there's I don't think there's too much respect for you know or there's just like a lack of awareness about this whole idea that we're international and that's important. So even at universities, I think the programs that are the most respected are usually not like English or ESL. It's usually like the business program, or nowadays it could be STEM, these are all important fields. But I think this whole idea of giving people language skills, I think, it should be more important. And I think these like cross-cultural opportunities, like between, Americans and people from other countries, I think it is important and valuable. And I think it should be something that not people just within higher education, but just people outside of it too should see as positive things. So I think it's just something that should be respected like a little bit more. Um, and this is all said like within our current administration, that you hear a lot of things in the news about not granting visas to people from certain countries, and immigration policies and things like that. And not to get like too political, but it's just all stupid. um,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think that's my biggest problem. I mean, I would like to say like, oh, teaching can be tough sometimes. It's um, you do have to maintain a positive attitude on a daily basis, which is difficult. Like coming to class and making sure students are engaged. It's those parts are tough too. But I think if we just keep it in mind that we are doing like something positive, it's a lot easier.
Mm.
Um, and also grading is tough. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. I mean, it's all a lot of work. Teaching is not for the weak-minded.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So yeah. In terms of a practical level, yeah, grading and giving feedback, that's the part of the job that's I think the most difficult for everyone. It's, like, are they going to listen to me? Are they going to incorporate it? Am I giving too much feedback? Am I being too nice? Am I being too mean? Those things are difficult.
yeah. And I don't think you ever have like a solid way that you do it, at least like not in my experience. I think that over time it depends on what class
Mhm.
you're teaching, what kind of students you have, how they learn best, like what their
Yeah,
passions are. Like it's constantly changing how you do it. And I think that for me is also a huge challenge. Like, okay,
yeah,
student needs more detailed feedback, or this student would rather find the answer themselves, or whatever. So that
yeah. And that made me think of another thing. I mean, just like teaching is extremely social. I call it hyper social to people that don't teach.
hmm
So it's just common for people that are in the teaching field to like go home and they're just completely exhausted. Um, and so I think it's really fun, but it does take a lot of energy. Um, so I think students know that too. I mean, it's not uncommon that they see teachers get tired even like in the middle of class.
yeah.
Um, so I think it's not just the grading, it's like maintaining energy, but the students give us energy if the lesson is going well. So
That's the key
if
word.
it's not going well,
There have
it's
been many of times where I've been like, okay, this lesson is tanking. All right, guys, just read this passage, do this worksheet,
yeah,
talk about it with your classmates. Like, okay.
yeah, or just simply say, man, this is not going well.
Yeah, I've done that before. Like flat out, like, you guys aren't doing so hot, huh? And they're like, no. Like,
Yeah.
really.
So
I think though that makes it better. Like when you recognize that things are not going correctly or they're not working, I think for me at least, like that has helped me build more rapport with my students because then they're like,
mhm.
okay, like you're not perfect either. It's okay. Like we're all just in this together. It's fine. Like,
Yeah, you're vulnerable. Even though you're in this teaching position, it's a very vulnerable position.
yeah.
So I try to do the same, and it usually makes them laugh. But it's tough to be vulnerable, like in the middle of class. You're like, oh, this is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's frustrating too, because like I've had moments where like I've planned a lesson that I'm like super excited about. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
this is great. And then it just tanks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, guys, this is great. And then I've had lessons where I like didn't have time to really put anything together. And it was kind of like, well, here you go. And then students were like, yeah, that was awesome. I'm like, I just like, I don't, all right, I don't know what.
It's unpredictable. I
Yeah.
just don't. Yeah, just like what you said, you overplan and it can suck. And then you underplan and it could be like the best lesson ever. It's extremely strange.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think that's partly why I like it because I feel like I'm always like learning and finding
uh-huh.
to do things. And yeah, it's definitely like, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And I think I like that.
Yeah, yeah. That is a cool part about it.
Yeah. Well, Mark, so you moved to Milwaukee from Colorado, correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you've been in Milwaukee for about a year and a half now, right?
Uh-huh.
So what have you found that you really enjoy here?
Oh, Well, I came here with my girlfriend. She's from Milwaukee. So I mean that really helps. You know, if I moved to Milwaukee by myself, it would have been really tough um, to kind of figure out all the cultural nuances of the area. So
Mhm.
she's been great in introducing me to some of the local customs, and the fish fries are awesome in Milwaukee. I mean, everyone says that, I know, but for me, it's just, I mean, there's local places that have closed down. There was a place called Fritz's that I don't know if you know it, but it's really popular fish fry, but it closed down recently because it's like a mom and pop, type of place.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. Um, and also just the local flavor of Milwaukee, you really can't beat it anywhere else. A lot of other cities are developing so quickly, and you get people moving in and new businesses, and it literally does drive out the local aspect of places. But Milwaukee's managed to retain that. Um, and so you really get the sense of community that people actually understand the importance of socializing and talking to your neighbor. People generally don't ignore you.
Do
If
they
they do,
Colorado?
what's that?
Do they ignore you in Colorado?
Colorado's nice, but there's, kind of Colorado is more wild, wild west type of mentality. Every man and woman to themselves. So that doesn't mean people are mean. It's just they're a little more individual focused.
Mm,
Um, so and there's benefits to that. Like different regions of the country have different ways of life and stuff. So I think for me, having lived in different places and coming from a place where people are friendly, but at the same time they kind of do their own thing. Milwaukee, there is some community, local flavor to it, where like you could really feel like why people love it and miss it when they move.
yeah,
So I don't know. I think that's the part that I like the most, and the summer festivals are really cool too. You know.
yeah, they're pretty great. It's sad that we won't be able to really enjoy them this summer. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely that's one of the reasons why I love Milwaukee so much. Of course, like
Mhm.
I there are other reasons why I chose to stay here, but definitely I like that. But is
Mhm.
there anything you don't like about Milwaukee?
Ooh, tough question. I mean, this is an easy one, and I think it's everyone. The winter is tough.
The weather. That's
I
what I mean.
mean, but teaching in our field, it makes it easier because students come from other countries and they're really struggling. So it forces me to be positive. I'm like, it's really cold out there, and
I remember last year when we had our first group of Oman students, and they came and they were wearing like t-shirts and like
uh,
jeans, like light jackets, and they're like, "What is this weather? Like,
uh,
this is winter in Wisconsin. Like, do you need a coat? Like, let's make sure you get a coat because you'll
yeah,
otherwise." Yeah, I think that's definitely for me like one of the hardest things, and I didn't think it would be that much different because I'm from Indiana, so it's still like
mhm,
Western weather, but it's definitely like winter lasts, I would say, like at least a month longer up here than it does in India.
yeah,
And that's like right now, like the weather up here has been like cold and like rainy, and like my mom's like, "Oh, it's sunny down here and it's warm." And I'm like, shut up.
Well, that's actually the toughest part. Like a lot of people think January and February is the worst, but for me, like April and May is the worst because I'm like, isn't it supposed to be warm now? How
Yeah,
come it's not summer? Like right now is the toughest part. It's like, can't it just be 65?
yeah. Can it just be? Yeah, doesn't it? Well, what's it like in Colorado? Does it get like warmish around this time?
Colorado, well, they have really the winters in Colorado are pretty easy because the temperature fluctuates up and down. But when you get into March or April, it really goes up and down. So you could have a 70-degree day, but then the next day you could have a snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Wisconsin weather where it's pretty like steady, you know. Colorado is more like goes up and down real quickly up until June, and then it just gets so hot, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so people like Colorado because of the winters, because you can get a 70-degree day in the middle, just like a break. You're like, ooh, this is a nice break.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. Awesome. So, of course, we've been, what was this week 7 that we've been socially distancing, something like that?
yeah.
How have you been coping? Like, what have you been getting up to help you stay sane during this time?
Just coffee. That's the only thing keeping me going.
Coffee.
It's the only thing I look forward to.
What about times with your students? Because I'm assuming you're teaching, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just do the kind of asynchronous. So we did have conferences for the credit classes, so that was nice to do some video chats with them. But I've mostly been recording videos. But the students have been able to contact me mostly through chat and email. So sometimes chatting with them is nice. But yeah, I think going for walks, you know, that's what everyone's doing. But you know, I think at some point you get sick of going on the same walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also bike ride too. So bike riding along the lake is nice, and I think you know that's generally safe. You're not really around people.
Mhm.
So, but I really do miss and realize how much like we need that social interaction. Like, I hope this makes people realize that being around people is okay.
Yeah.
So, I think we forget that.
Yeah. I think we definitely forget that.
Mhm.
So, last question for you, Mark, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for students during this time?
I mean, you know, we get students of all ages. So we have adults that have been through the same difficulties that we've been through. I mean, um, so you know, it's a difficult time. I mean, if you are one of our younger students, like this is strange for us too at any age. I mean, we really haven't been through this since they keep bringing up 1918, the flu that happened across the globe. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's strange for us too. But I mean, I would say just, you know, take care of yourself. Like, take care of the people closest to you, the people that are important to you. Um, I mean, I would also say if you haven't talked to a friend in a while that you just forgot about, like call the person, you know, email them, because I think it makes people realize that, oh, um, you know, just recently I reached out to a friend. He's a former colleague, and I hadn't talked to him in 10 years. And
Oh, wow.
it was so cool to talk to him, you know, and to realize like, you know, I didn't really know him very well, but talking to him made me realize what a cool guy he was. And so, you know, now we're planning to meet up at some point like next year when all this is over. So I think it's a, you know, it's a good time to reach out to people that you've maybe ignored. But I think once this is all over, to continue that is going to be the challenge. I think people will probably go back to just kind of just the way things were, but I hope it makes people realize how important it is to stay in touch with people that you know they're close with. Um, I
Yeah.
think I think it's making everyone a little more reflective these days, since we have more time to think about it. So I think people should act on those things that they're thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually just reconnected with a friend that I haven't talked to in like 5 years. So it's funny that you say that.
Yeah, and we're a little older, so some of our students are younger. You know, they're not going through the same thing, but they should, appreciate your family. The people that are closest to you would be the main thing, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, awesome, Mark. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah.
Any last words?
Uh, stay strong. We'll get through this.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome, Mark. Well, thanks for joining me, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Lindsey.
All right, bye.
Bye.